Hello and welcome to the Ray Show podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Ray, and it is so good to be back with you all out there in podcast land. We took a extra week off due to some unforeseen circumstances, but now we're back, and we'll be coming at you with some really cool episodes. Today, we have the mighty Guillotine A.D. on the podcast. A local Athens metal juggernaut if there ever was one. So that chat is coming up soon with all three members. So we're just so fortunate to have them come and sit down and hang with us and talk about their new record. So that'll be coming up soon. Want to thank everyone for all the great feedback from the Pincus interview. He's a really cool dude, really cool guy, and I'm so glad that he came and played here in town. And if you get a chance to see him on these clutch dates, make sure to do that. We also have the live dates coming up soon. I know I say that every fucking episode, but it is eventually going to be announced, and you'll be able to get tickets and all that good stuff. It will be free, but we have to keep track of everybody coming into Cine. So not like we're going to keep track of you. We're just going to keep a number. So a number of you. So no information will be collected and used in a nefarious way. But you'll be seeing more of that coming up very soon. And all of our information can be found at www.ratiopodcast.com. So make sure to go over there. We got our good friend Brian Poole maintains that for us and does such an excellent job. So hello to Brian over in Berlin. But now let's get to our chat with the mighty Guillotine A.D. All right, everybody. We are here on a muggy, hot, 96-degree Sunday evening with the mighty Guillotine A.D.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, let's go around and introduce everybody. Start up.
I am Adam Miller. I am the bassist and vocalist of Guillotine A.D.
I am Lance Miller. I am the guitarist and backing vocals of Guillotine A.D. and Adam's brother.
This is Evan Posey. I'm the drummer.
And not Adam and Lance's brother. Well, we're coming to you from beautiful downtown Athens, Georgia. Real fun day here, and we're talking to this metal Leviathan here in town. I've been friends with these cats for a while, and they have a new album coming out called Born to Fall. And let's start talking about how this kind of started, how these songs, did this album come together during the pandemic, or did you have this ready to go?
So we actually started working on these songs in 2018. We actually premiered the first song we wrote after the first album was Hammer, which is track 7 of this album. We debuted that song October of 2018, playing with Cloak here in Athens. And 5 days later, so I live in South Georgia. They live in Athens. I live like 4 hours south of here. 5 days after we played that song, Hurricane Michael came and destroyed my hometown. And so for months, I wasn't able to play music. I was cleaning up, hurricane damage. So that delayed the writing. We continued to work. And we had kids, and just life kind of slowed us down a bit. But then, so probably like mid 2019, we had the bulk of this album ready to go, with the intentions of releasing it probably summer 2020, and which would have been a good probably 2.5 years after the first album. Then, of course, COVID waylaid those plans. And so then we spent 2020 kind of just like polishing the songs up, wrapping up the last couple of songs. 2021, the plan was to record, shop demos out to labels, and then if nothing happened, we would just self-release at the end of 2021. And then we heard from M Theory Audio out of Las Vegas, run by Marco Barbieri, formerly head of Century Media and Nuclear Blast. And so then that, getting things, production, promotion set up with the label, pushed it back a bit. So now here we are, June 2022, with our second album, 5 years after the first one.
I want to talk about the album art here in a little bit, but first of all, the lyrics. The lyrics are very direct, and they are open to interpretation. They're very strong. They're very fierce. But I feel like there's almost a spiritual vibe to some of these songs, or all of them. Who writes the lyrics, and could you talk a little bit about that?
So yeah, I wrote 90% of the lyrics probably for the whole album. There were some contributions from Lance on a couple of tracks, but thematically, it was all kind of my conception. So yeah, I mean, I feel like some of that directness you're talking about, it was really just having just the life experiences we went through, just growing up. I mean, we're full blown adults now. We have responsibilities and families and mortgages, and just the emotional intensity that you kind of experience. I try to channel some of that on some of these songs, particularly like Vultures of Paradise, Exile. And, leaving it open to interpretation was like I didn't want to tell you what to think about it. I'm just kind of presenting these things as a question, like something, things you struggle with in life. What do you make of it? It's, I want to make people think, and you mentioned like the spiritual aspect and the different. Not every song is told from the same narrator's point of view. So take the song Black Sabbath. Ozzy did not walk through the woods and see this black mass. He's a character. A character is narrating that song, and that's all these songs are like that. It's a character that is telling these lyrics. For example, Born to Fall is the title track. Is it's a man wrestling with the concept of original sin. You're born damned, damned at birth. And that's none of this is necessarily reflecting our personal beliefs, but it's the art we're presenting.
Absolutely, and it's I think it's very strong. I think it's badass, and people need to be shaken up a little bit. And speaking of that, I want to get into how you guys get started, but let's talk about the artwork for the album.
Okay.
So let's talk about who did the artwork for the album.
Eliran Kantor he's actually an Israeli living in Germany now, living in Berlin. And, I had seen his artwork not knowing who had painted it or who he was, on various albums. And there was actually some weird connections that existed before I figured out who he was. I think it was sometime in 2018 I saw the new artwork for Bloodbath's The Arrow of Satan is Drawn. And it was just such a gut punch of a piece of art.
So different, yeah.
And I had a 4-month-old baby at home, and it's the crib with flies around it, and it's a beautiful scene except for these flies surrounding the crib, and it's just like it's a horrible for me at the time, just a gut wrenching, heartbreaking image, and to be able to evoke feelings like that with a piece of art, the dude he's a master. He is a master of art, a master of painting, and so I started doing research into who he was, and I realized that we had one of his art pieces on our rehearsal room wall, Atheist Jupiter. We had the poster from that vinyl up because it's just a badass painting, like 2 lions fighting inside of a planet. And so that was cool. We'd always had that on our wall, and that album was recorded at Lead Belly Sound Studio with Matt Washburn in Dawsonville, where we recorded both of our albums. So it was a weird connection before we even knew who he was. But what's really interesting about that is, we sent him the lyrics, some of the themes we were trying to convey, sent him the demos, and I was explaining to him I wanted this grand apocalyptic scene, like a Peter Paul Rubens' Last Judgment, but a death metal version, something evil and dark and huge and apocalyptic. And then he comes back with this intimate close-up of a woman stepping on a man's face, with her dress dangling in it. And it captured some of that, like, the anxiety and tension that I was trying to, convey in some of the lyrics. And
yeah.
No, it's great. I love it.
I love that I've showed it like 5 different people, and they all have like 5 different interpretations.
Yeah, it's great.
Everybody I've showed it to that's been here in the house, they've been like, that's fucking amazing, but they've all had a different, spin on it. let's get back, and Evan, we're not gonna leave you out the whole time. I know, but let's talk to Adam and Lance. So, Lance, you're older, and how did you guys get into music? I mean, let alone metal.
Well, starting off, our parents listened to like hard rock, so like Van Halen, ZZ Top, Black Sabbath, things like that. So we grew up on all that stuff. Ted Nugent, things like that, 70s hard rock, and I loved all that stuff. And then when I was 10, my uncle, my dad's brother, gave me Metallica and Justice for All on CD for my birthday, and that opened my eyes to a whole new ball game of music. I was hooked on that shit, and we got really into Metallica, and then we discovered Pantera, who was a new obsession of ours. And around the time I got into middle school, Adam and I were both into the same stuff, but new metal became really popular, and we didn't have internet, like now you can, Spotify stream anything in the world, but whatever was on MTV or on the radio back then was all we knew about, so Korn and bands like that was like hugely popular, and I was like the right age and demographic.
Age, yeah.
So I was really into that shit. So like, and then when I was in 9th grade, 2001, I had a friend with an older brother. He was like, I think he was 21 or 22. So he took us to metal concerts, and we were going to see Mushroom Head in Tallahassee. And the opening bands for them were Avenged Sevenfold and Shadows Fall, two unknown bands. Like, who the hell was that? And Avenged Sevenfold back then, by the way, were like way different. They had like guttural vocals, and it was kind of death metal-ish, And then Shadows Fall just fucking blew me away. I was like, holy shit. And then like
just Brian's hair alone.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I remember there was a moment. I think Thoughts Without Words. They played that song. It was actually on MTV2, but the album, that album wasn't out yet. The Art of Balance, but it was coming out like maybe months after that or whatever. But that song was already out as a single. And I remember when that song played, the whole room everyone was banging their head, moshing, and all in unison. I was like, holy shit. And as a 14-year-old, that like really grabbed me. And they still to this day are one of my favorite bands, and we both became obsessed with Shadows Fall, and that opened my eyes to, true metal. So we delved even deeper after that, and, discovered death metal, black metal, things like that. But I really would say Shadows Fall was our gateway into true metal.
Right on.
So yeah, I mean, like you said, we were already into Metallica, Pantera, heavier music, but it was really Shadows Fall that like turned us into metalheads. It made us explore heavier, darker stuff. It opened our minds to how awesome brutal music can be. But it's funny, when he came home from that show, and he I don't think he bought the Shadows Fall CD then, but when the Art of Balance came out a few months later, he brought it home, and I remember telling him, "You're gonna go to hell for listening to that. That's satanic. They're singing about the devil." So I was scared of it. I didn't want anything to do with it. But then, sure enough, a couple weeks later, I was jamming to it too. And so yeah, it's a funny story.
The sweet sounds of Satan.
And actually, a funny story about that is it relates to Marco Barbieri, who runs our label now. So they were on Century Media, and when you got the CD, they had a thing you could mail in, and they'd send you like a Century Media catalog with all the bands, and there was bands like Rotting Christ and all these bands on there. And I got the compilation CD, and my parents in Southwest Georgia weren't too crazy about that when they saw the band names and the logos and stuff in that catalog. It was pretty funny, but pretty shocking to when you go from Van Halen to Rotting Christ. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's in your blood, though. I think I mean, you were meant to get into that. So.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But the thing, how do you guys start playing music? Do you just who got the instruments first?
So probably when Lance was 10, he got a cheap little JCPenney guitar for Christmas. And then I think maybe the next year I got a cheap little drum set. It didn't take. I'm not a drummer. I think those ended up in a landfill somewhere. But then when I was 12, I got a bass. He plays guitar. We can't have two guitarists in the band, so I got a bass so we could, have more of a band.
I think that was my idea. He would get a bass, actually. I was like, I play guitar, you play bass.
And, here I am 21 years later, still playing the fucking bass. So yeah, that's kind of how it started.
Yeah. And you started sing. Did you sing like early on, or
no? That's actually another interesting story. So our original incarnation of Guillotine was in 2003. And we had a couple of our friends. One had drums. We had another guitar player. So we ended up having 2 guitars, and I said we couldn't do that. But we played a couple of shows. We had a demo recorded, and then Lance went off to college, and that kind of ended the original version of the band. And then 2015, Lance and I, decided to get back to it after 10 years of dormancy. And, trying to find band members, the Craigslist ads and Facebook, you meet some strange characters and stuff. So the night before, it worked out with Evan. He's our kind of weird.
There we go.
So the night before our first show, which was August 20th, 2016, at Sweetwater Bar and Grill in Duluth, our singer called and quit the band the night before the first show. But we had worked so hard to get the songs ready, to write the music, to get on the show. It's a nobody band booking your first show. I mean, we were like begging to play anywhere. So I stayed up till 3 a.m. the night before our first show, learning how to, mechanically play and sing at the same time, because I'd never been able to do that. It's like chewing bubble gum and walking.
It's so difficult at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. It's like
so awkward.
It's like a new muscle in your brain. You have to like break it in, And so yeah, since August 20th, 2016, I've been bassist and vocalist.
Right on, man. And so when does Evan come into the scene? Let's get Evan over here on the.
Where did I come from?
How did you guys hook up?
2016, I guess, on Craigslist. What was it? I was in a band called Wicked King that was looking for a bass player, and it came across Adam's post that he had a band, sludgy blackened death metal, something like that needed a drummer. So we kind of scratched each other's backs for a while. Adam was bassist in Wicked King, and I played drums in Guillotine. And, yeah, Wicked King is no more, but Guillotine A.D. is running rampant.
Yeah, and
yes.
Now, how did you get into metal?
How did I get into metal? Funny, because Lance was sitting here talking about Metallica and Justice for All. That's the exact album that was my breakthrough album, too. I had a buddy who we were starting to learn guitar together, and I played drums, too, at the time. I was no good, probably about 15. And his stepdad was a real country guy, but he had a badass speaker system in his car, and he turned on Blackened, the opening track to And Justice for All, and it was blaring, and just that was it.
Oh, man.
It was beautiful. It's still beautiful. It still might be my favorite song ever, although I don't like choosing favorites.
Right. See, Master was my thing because I'm just a little older. Just chronologically, that was the one that when I was like 12 came out. But that was the greatest year for metal when like Rain and Blood came out.
Right.
Peace Cells came out. It was just unbelievable. But now do you play in other bands? You play in Rapid Channel.
Yes. Yeah, Rapid Channel. I've been writing songs the entire time I've ever played music. So all these songs that I had for years, started playing them on guitar with Rapid Channel. Been doing some stuff here and there.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's a fun little project.
Right on. And it's a little different from what you're doing with
Guillotine
AD.
Yeah. Guillotine A.D. is the tuning is nice and low.
Yeah.
Nice big ball tuning. And so Rapid Channel is mostly like standard or what I call Slayer tuning. And so it's just different.
Yeah.
It's different stuff.
Well, now what's the plan with this record?
What's the plan?
We're getting out of this. Hopefully, we're getting better news every day, and hopefully we're moving out of this pandemic. What is the plans? I know you guys have real lives, so what's the plans for this record?
So we have a lot of promotional pieces falling into place over the next few weeks. So the album's coming out June 24th, Friday, June 24th. Go ahead and pre-save it on your Apple Music, add it to your Spotify playlist, all that shit. Get ready because it's coming. So we have some tour dates planned throughout the summer. We're playing. So June 23rd, the day before the album release, we're having a beer release party and CD listening party at Academia Brewing Company here in Athens. We're not playing that night, but we're gonna put the album on and just drink some beer and have a party. And we hope everybody can come out. Free event. And we have a signature beer, the Born to Fall Cold IPA. Cold fermented dry hopped IPA. I think it's 6.5%.
Nice.
So Born to Fall on your face if you drink too many of them IPA.
How cool is that to have a beer?
Yeah, it's awesome. And then I've seen bands do that, and I always thought it was like the coolest fucking thing to actually do that. And so we're excited that they collaborated with us on that. So we're doing that June 23rd, and because we're not that smart, we're going to drive to Lexington, Kentucky early the next morning after having a beer-fueled rager to play at Al's Bar with Storm Toker and The Human Tragedy and Age of Panic in Lexington. That's going to be fun. And then coming down to Spartanburg the next night in South Carolina. And the following weekend, we're having our official album release show here in Athens at Flicker Bar with our brothers in metal and Beast Mode and some new friends we made in Florida, Corrupted Saint, badass death thrash band. They will melt your fucking face.
Hell yeah,
great
man.
band. And then later on in the summer, we're gonna hit Tennessee, hitting New Orleans, Long Beach, Mississippi, and then Savannah, Georgia, somewhere in there. And really cool, we're playing a fucking Crowbar at the 40 Watt Club here in Athens. And that's a bucket list venue for us being an Athens band. I mean, 40 Watt is the most prestigious, legendary place, you know. Oh, happy August 23rd, Crowbar in Athens, Georgia.
Who else is on that bill?
Spirit Adrift.
That's right. That's
yeah,
right.
It's fucking awesome band. So yeah, that's gonna be a cool show. We are fucking dead tickled to be playing that show.
Yeah, and like, what does that mean to you to have somebody like Kirk, to play with, who's such a a cornerstone of that New Orleans scene? What's it like to be able to fucking play a show with him?
So I mean, we've been pretty open, that the New Orleans sludgy southern, humid, hot, creepy, down-tuned, chunky-ass metal that comes out of there. We kind of wanted to make a Georgia version of that. It's always been a huge influence on us. And like you said, Kurt Weinstein being a cornerstone of that entire subgenre. I mean, that's huge for us. I mean, right now Evan's wearing a Down hat.
Hell yeah.
Down is a huge influence on our music. Crowbar is. And, my wife, she listens to me carry on about band stuff. She tolerates it. She's supportive, but more tolerant.
Right.
And, but I was explaining to her we're playing with Crowbar, and she doesn't know Crowbar from fucking, K-pop.
Yeah.
And so I put it on, and she's like, "Oh, this is a great fit for you." So even to a non-metalhead, she could hear the similarity between, the influence of Crowbar on us. So we're really excited.
Yeah, we've had Kirk on the podcast, and we've had Phil from Down on the podcast. So yeah, y'all, and I think both of them would like fucking love you guys. And I mean, is there anything you want to get across? Any mission statement that you have with what you're trying to do with this fucking art, this badass outsider art?
So, the one thing about Elleran's artwork that made me want to work with him for our album is, just that I would look at his pieces and it would make me feel something. It would make me think. It would challenge me, and that's what we want to do with the music, with the lyrics. I mean, we want it. We're blending all these different styles, but we feel like we've put them together in a way that sounds like us. It's not like, okay, here's a black metal riff, here's a death metal riff, here's a doom riff. Some of the riffs are all those in one, but they're all Guillotine A.D. And with the lyrics, like you said, open to your interpretation. Like I'm saying something, but I'm not telling you what you need to think or what I think. And the same, and the artwork, the same way is perfect with the music. It's to challenge you. Like what. When you listen to this album and read these lyrics and look at that, what do you get from it?
Right. And one thing I want to bring up, a friend of all of ours, Zach Hembry, guests on the record, and he's just a legend, man, and has played Music Hates You and Hembry and the Satan Sisters. I mean, the list goes on, man. And what was that like to have him on the record?
Well, Zach is a really good friend. I live so far away that we haven't had a lot of like in-person hang time, but we're in contact pretty regularly, and just for him to be willing to be on the album was a huge honor. And he did a killer fucking performance. And if you're familiar with his band, Hembry and the Satan Sisters, which is just great, there's a lot of depth in that band that I don't think a lot of people even notice.
Oh yeah, totally.
It's catchy. I coined the term hate pop.
I told him when they were, but before they were going to release that, I was like, "This is special, man. This is just these songs are fucking killer, man. You got to really push this, you know."
Yeah, it's very in your face and offensive, but it's also a bit tongue in cheek. It's not 100% serious, and I think there's a lot to digest there. And so when we got him to sing on the song's called "War First," and it's kind of I read a book. I think it was called "Germany and the Next War." It was written in maybe 1910. And it was influential on the German generals going into World War One. And it was a ludicrous book, basically praising war as like mankind's highest endeavor, highest achievement, that the best of man is on display in times of war. And so, like I said, ridiculous idea, but made for fucking killer album, song lyrics. And
Right.
And Hembry just killed it. I mean, his vocal delivery on that is nothing like I've heard on his previous releases.
Right.
And it's kind of a duet like Porter Wagner and Dolly Parton. It's beautiful.
Exactly.
Very touching.
Well, let's go back. I want to make sure the record release party, that's on the 23rd, the day before
Right.
the actual release.
Yeah.
Then you're going to have the gig in Lexington. So let's see here. Where can everybody get in touch? What's the best way to interact with Guillotine?
So you can hit up our socials, facebook.com/guillotine.ad1. Apparently there was another Guillotine AD that doesn't link to anything. It's kind of weird I couldn't get Guillotine AD. Instagram is at Guillotine AD. No underscore in there. Just Guillotine AD. And we're actually, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to launch our website, www.guillotinead.com.
Badass.
And there'll be a contact form on there. You can, ask us any question, send us hate mail, album reviews, tit pics, whatever you got. We'll take it.
Right on.
Also, try Craigslist.
Correction. It is an underscore on the Instagram.
Ah, okay.
Guillotine_AD. I was quizzing you, so if you're paying attention,
Right.
Good job.
Right. Well, guys, it's such a fucking honor to have y'all here, and I think this record's special. I've been telling you guys for weeks now. Everybody go out and get this record, and I think it's a modern fucking classic, man. I think it's a direction on where metal can go, man. And we need lions like y'all that can bring all the ships up, man. So thank you so much for coming on, man.
Thank you for having us, man. It's been a blast.
Yeah, we enjoyed it. Thank you.
I want to thank the Mighty Guillotine for coming on our podcast and telling us about their new record. So make sure you go out and get that and get your mind just fucking scraped off the ceiling after you hear it. So thanks so much for those cats, and we'll have an episode coming right at you next week. So stay switched on, and we'll talk to you soon.